Right, hello guys. I'm just they made a bunch of changes to OBS, so I'm trying to figure them out at present. So stand by with me. We get should be able to get in the game here. I gotta just find out what happened to the chat box in OBS. Just changed it too, so I'm trying to find how to get it. I guess I can run the chats just out of YouTube, but you see if I can find them real quick. It used to be in docs, and a bunch of that's changed, so unfortunately. Interesting. All right, we'll go without it for now. I can look at the other chat. But how's it going there, Alistair? How's it going there, Variante? Darkside Tripper. Hello, hello. Sergeant, how are you? Good to see everybody. Yeah, I don't know what happened to it. It's weird. So it gave me an error message, so it could be something with that. But working on the build for Alistair's challenge. Let me knock down this music a little. Gonna be a shortish stream today. Everybody, make sure that you see if I can bring it up. Alistair is going to stream the Q&A. He said, if you know, of course, could be subject to change. I assume he's going to do it. He said he was. Let me bring up the announcements on that. So bring that up here. So I think I figured out live streaming on YouTube. So if you need any help, Alistair, send me a message. I've done some practice runs and well, so he'll be live streaming the Q&A. That's November 20th. What time was it? 1600 Z? I'll have to look what time it is Z. I think it's 1600 Z. And I will not be able to do it myself. I'm going to be very busy that day, so I can't do it. So everybody make sure they tune in and watch Alistair on that day. So here is the bush plane I've been working on for Alistair's challenge. Let's actually bring up the challenge info on that as well. Having audio issues in my headset too, but I've got a new microphone coming for that. So here's the challenge. It's going to be a bush plane challenge. A small bush plane capable of getting out of tight spots for various reasons, rescue, deliveries, repairs, etc. It should be able to carry at least 2 passengers and have a small, so I got to put a dummy seat in there for the 2 passengers. Alistair, can you verify 2 passengers with the person flying or 2 passengers in addition? Have a small amount of emergency equipment to aid self in case of emergencies. Requirements: max size 5940 620. Must cost less than 35. Engine must be a diesel only. I assume it can be multi-engine. That's what I'm doing. That's what a bunch of people have been doing. So engines must be diesel only. Must be able to function without infinite fuel and electricity. Must seat 2 passengers, not including the pilot. So that's been verified there. So I'll put a dummy seat in, or I'm going to put a seat pallet in. Floats, wheels, skis are fine. The nose, each participant 1 submission. No already started builds. No team building. No workshop micros. No mods. Let's see. And we got till Sunday, November 17th. So 3 days on that. You know, standard stuff. Have a reasonable workshop page. You know, Alistair, I think, is making the right decision, not going too far into the workshop pages, as he has had a taste of my horror of you know, multi-day trying to get the videos out, so makes sense to try to reduce some of that. So that's going to be the challenge. So I worked on this a little bit before I left town, and then you know, I worked a little on this last night, and hopefully wrap it up. So I actually increased efficiency a little on this earlier today. Let me see if I can put this on. Stand by. I got to mute my mic and put this on. Like I said, I'm having mic issues. I had a pop filter on there. I took it off because it was making noise. So this is going to be mine. It's inspired by the Cessna 337, which is an inline twin. How's it going there, Rasmus? Good to see you. Inline twin. It's going to have some sort of cargo capacity. It has dual doors for cargo here. Kind of pass through. I like to put something in there. So I'm going to end up putting some sort of attachment system. And we'll put like a seating pallet almost in there, so you can put extra seats in there, and that way it will meet the seating requirement by just putting that pallet in if you want to pull it out. It also has doors here, so in the event that you put a cargo pallet in there, you would still be able to get in the front. So pretty good handling on this. I took out some cylinders and increased the gearing on this. So let's go ahead and start up. All right. So it has really good slow speed handling. I've got it down to about 65 knots if you're a good pilot and you can manage your power. 75 is about normal, so you don't want to come into the very limit anyway. So this is max. I did take some cylinders out. I didn't want the speed to be ridiculous, so I've got it up to 190, which I think is good. And then it is constant speed propellers, so as I bring back the propeller, you'll notice the blade pitch will increase, which will put more load on the engine. This is where, like, you know, a lot of people fall down not understanding the relationship between load and, you know, RPS. And so by loading up the engine, you're naturally bringing down the RPM of the engine, which burns less fuel. You will go slower, but it's more efficient. That's why real aircraft have these constant speed propellers that you can vary. And then the way a constant speed works IRL is if you tip the nose down, naturally, because gravity is now pulling you forward, it's going to spin the propeller faster, and it's going to make the engine go higher than what you've set the revs to be. And what's going to happen is the blade pitch is going to increase to slow it back down. As you pitch up, the blade pitch is automatically going to decrease to take load off the engine to maintain RPS. So I do need to tune that in still, but let's see if we can get a quick landing in. So just like in real life, you have to trim. Again, you're changing where your center of lift is when you add flaps, so you need to trim. So where a lot of people don't get that is you got to do that. So just like in real life, if you're going too slow, you can pull your elevators all the way back, and you will not have enough elevator to be able to maintain altitude. So what you need to do, increase power. So that's how you figure out what your approach speed is, essentially, is you do this. This is slow flight. Let me see if I can get the, you know what, I need to put the prop back forward. So I need to put the prop and landing configuration, so might not be able to do it fast enough. I got to change the speeds of that. This was the controllers for the Caribou. So yeah, they're going to have problems because I got to fix it. So bring it back. I got to tune in that engine. It's Cessna, let me bring up, Cessna 337. It does, I do know the Dornier you're talking about, though. That is a cool plane. Here's a 337. I brought up the wrong screen. There it is. Here's a 337, so. The 337s have retractable gear. They're really gross retractable gear. They're a pain in the ass. Cessna did some really funky ass gear and just caused huge amount of problems. The nose wheel wasn't an issue. These would drop down and then they'd come forward, drop down, and then go back. And they're just like, the mechanism is notorious for, here they are. You can kind of see in this picture how goofy they come back. And it was just high likelihood of a jam, and then you've got your gear stuck, so that's never good. But that's kind of what it's based off of, is the 337. You know, the benefits of something like this is the by having it inline, there's a problem with twin engine airplanes. Let me see. Small, come on, man, fucking nonsense. So you have VMCA, which is a problem where there's a bunch of things. Let me see if I can find some of the stuff. So you end up, if you lose an engine, you can have a critical engine, you have a non-critical engine, where the critical engine, essentially, you're getting wash off of the engine over the rudder. And so if you lose one engine, it's better than the other, but one of the ways they counteract this is with counter-rotating propellers. You know, so like some trainers, like a Seminole, have counter-rotating propellers, so, you know, left side turns clockwise and the other side turns counterclockwise. You know, most twins are conventional. You have the same engine, so you have both, say, turning to the right clockwise. And the problem is if you lose one of your engines, it's going to be a bigger deal than the other. And then if you go below a certain speed, you're going to bank over, go inverted, and crash into the ground. So that's not good. So some stuff to consider with that. You know, if you somebody was asking on Alistair's, you know, if for some advice on putting in different speeds to kind of make their workshop page look a little better. And one thing with that is just do a quick Google search on what the speeds mean, because they were asking, like, you know, should they put in V1? V1 has to do is rejected takeoff speed for twins. So, and it's not light twins, usually transport category aircraft. So, would not be applicable. So let's see. I got to change. So again, these are the controllers that came off the Caribou. So completely different power and everything else. So I got to work on getting everything tuned in. So I might work on that. Let's see. This is a pain in the ass process getting this in. So let me try some stuff. Not too bad, but I gotta tune these in. They're pretty much identical, so I'll just run the front, and then hopefully the rear will be the same. All right, so I need RPS. And then stop that, devil. And then where you pitch. I need that right there. All right. That can go. All right, so this is how I tune it in. So I'll show you how my constant speed propeller system works real quick. So essentially what you're doing is 1 will push the props forward. Forward on your levers is low pitch, high RPM. 2 brings them back. That is high pitch, low RPM. And so essentially what you're doing is you're telling your propeller, hey, I want to maintain something like 2,000 RPM. And so again, like I said, if you lower the nose, the gravity is going to help you come down. It's going to start speeding the propeller up. And so then your engine's going to be going, say, 2,200 RPM. And so what will happen is the blade will automatically increase its pitch, and that will put more load on the engine. That will slow it down back down to 2,000 RPM. If you pitch your nose up, right, you're fighting against gravity. You're no longer windmilling. And so the engine's going to go from 2,000 down to 1,800. And so what it's going to do is automatically decrease the pitch, which will decrease the load on the engine, which allow the engine to spin back up to, you know, the set point of 2,000. So that's how it works. So the way I do this is come in with an up-down counter. Now, again, I run a low P value so that it never oscillates. And I run a number like negative 5.5 to 15. And so what I'm going to do is be smart man. I'm going to take a screenshot of that. And then, so what I'm going to do is do negative, say, 20. Do positive, say, I don't know, 30. And that's going to allow me to fix where I want my propeller to be. 0.015 is fine. All right, so that's good. And then, so down here is the actual engine control. And for some reason, it's feeling real slow. It's not too bad, though. All right. All right, so let's go tune this in. So each plane that I do, I need to redo my my constant speed propeller system to just make sure that it's within. So that's all I do is kind of set the limits on there. And then I can use these dials. So right now the propeller is at its lowest pitch, which is 0.1. So again, for takeoff and landing, you want low pitch. And the reason is that puts a small amount of load on your engine. So it's very easy for the engine to move the propeller, and it can move it fast. And it can change speed really quickly because you don't have a lot of load. It's like you're trying to do a bicep curl with a very light weight. As you increase the blade pitch, it's like you're trying to do a bicep curl with a bigger weight. It's going to be slower for you to lift it. And so that's fine for cruise, but you don't want that for takeoff. All right, so right now the setting is, I should have put a feed out here. Let's go back. I got to do something. I got to make that a little bit bigger and then set that last dial. I hope this is the front. Is this the front? Yep, that's the front. Okay, what's this shit here? Cooling motor. Okay, that got disconnected. Cooling motor, alternators. Why did all that get Oh, I shrunk it. I didn't reconnect it. That's what it was. All right, and then we'll go ahead and I will just bastardize the battery for now. Yeah, I won't do that. I'll just make it bigger for a second. And so what this is going to do is I'm going to take my number out. I'll reach out in a second, guys. I don't have the regular chat overlay. It's kind of annoying. This is prop pitch setting. All right, let's go ahead and go through chat real quick. 8 p.m. Eastern. 8 a.m. Eastern? What? Let me look. I'll check the check when they said the Q&A is. 4 p.m. UTC. That's 1600 UTC. We are currently -5, I believe. No, -5 or 6. I think -5. I think we're -5 right now, so you would be 4 p.m. -5, so 11 a.m. Let me check UTC. Again, somebody asked in the comments, like, you know, how to do the conversion. That's what Google was invented for. Let's see, UTC to, let's just do NYC, because I always forget which is the daylight savings. I think we're on daylight savings time, so it'd be DST now. Let's see. So presently, so right now it is 11:30 a.m. in New York. It is 4:30 p.m. or 1600 Zulu. So again, so like right now on the 20th is when the stream would be. So 11 a.m. So again, just go into a UTC converter, real simple. Just type in UTC, put in your time, New York, whatever. Just for East Coast, because I couldn't remember if it was daylight savings or not. Right here it tells you the time difference. UTC is 5 hours ahead of EST Standard Time. And then you also have EDT, Eastern Daylight Time. But that's the conversion right there. So if it was going to be a 1600, 4 p.m. Z, so 11 a.m. on the 20th, East Coast time. So just grab go in the converter and figure it out. That's, personally, I think UTC should be what everything runs on, just because it makes sense. It's like, that's how do all the pilot weather is everything's denoted in UTC. All right, so that's in prop pitch setting. That way everybody's on the same page. It doesn't matter, because like you could really screw up if let's say you cross a time zone, right? You go from Eastern to Centrals. Let's say you go New York to Chicago, and you misread the weather because you don't do the conversion correctly. By having everything in Zulu, it doesn't matter. So, like, I'll bring up a TAF here real quick. Let's see. TAF, ORD. I want a proper TAF. There was a TAF for Chicago. Okay. All right, so like here's the TAF for Chicago. So KORD is Chicago, 14th day of the month. That's this month, 1440 Z. So again, Chicago is going to be -6. So you'd subtract 6 off of that, right? So it would be 10:40 a.m. local time in Chicago. Let's see. Wind is 31011, 6 statute miles, mist, overcast at 800 feet. So let's say you're going into Chicago, right? And you're overcast at 800 feet. You might need to go plan an alternate airport, right? And so you'd need to plan an alternate airport by law, because you have a ceiling of, less than 2,000 feet in Chicago, so you'd need an alternate. And so imagine if you didn't do everything in Zulu time, you'd have to do the conversion. You don't have to do the conversion. You know when you're going to be there. You know that you're going to be there at 1445 Z. so you know that you're going to have low ceilings. So that's why everything's done in Zulu. So it makes sense for everybody to you at least have some connection to the same time. All right, so I'm going to take prop pitch setting, and right here I'm going to hook this up like that. And then that will allow me to tune this in. So I just have to do this every time I make a new plane because, again, I have a different size engine, I have a different configuration propeller, different RPMs, RPSs, and so it's going to be all different. So I need to tune it in. So it really isn't too bad. So like right now, it starts at 15. That's going to give me 0.1. All right, so let's go ahead and take off. Let's put in a little flap. Yeah, real 337s aren't that big. This one's a little bit on the big side just because game stuff's always big. All right, so let's get rid of those flaps. All right, so we've taken off. We're at 0.2 right now. So what I want to do is, so the starting value is 15. So I'm going to start bringing that back. And I actually want to bring it forward. Well, let's see, where are we going here? All right, I'm going to try to get us to 0.1. So I want to keep us at 0.1. So notice we're going up on this. So, okay, so I want to take off at 0.1. So I'm trying to get some notion of, so around, say, let's say 22. And now I'm going to bring the props back. So I want negative 20, positive 22. I gotta go the other way here. Let's see why this is fucked up now. There we go. Alright, so now I'm gonna start pulling this off. So 22 is gonna be my max. So notice, as I increase the blade pitch, my RPM will naturally go down because I'm asking it to do more work. And there we go. So it's coming up. And so what I want to do is I want to keep going. Oh, I know why I'm having some problems with this. I got to fix something too. So you notice this. I want this to go to about 0.9 because I want it to be able to still work for a descent or a climb. So right there, it's at -5, and that's probably really not enough. Let me get this trimmed out here, because again, as I'm descending, it's trying to automatically compensate for that. So. All right, so I want it right about, so let's say -5. So 22 and -5, so we just tune that in. All right, so we'll change this up. So 15 is a fine starting number, that's fine. We want 22, and we want -5. All right, let's do that. Let's change these numbers up on the other one. Okay, that should be good. All right, let's go take a flight, and we'll see if those numbers work for us for the constant speed propeller. All right, so you see the prop pitch is nice and low. It's at 0.1. This should make the engine scream on takeoff, which it would, because you're revving at a really high RPM. There we go. All right, we're off the ground. All right, so now, as you can see, it should give me the number of 15. We have about 0.2. As I bring the propeller back, it's going to start loading up the engine. It's going to start increasing blade pitch, which is going to be more efficient too. So for every one rotation, I'm going to go a further distance forward, but it puts resistance on the engine, so my speed will be lower but more efficient. So I'll burn a hell of a lot less fuel. So like when people are talking about, I can't cool my engine, this really helps with that. You notice we're down to about 5 RPS. So we're at 5 RPS here. And this gives us a slower speed, but we're really, really efficient. So we're going to So that's what you would cruise at. Thank you there, Amanda. Really appreciate it. Put you in the old recognition here. Let's stand by. Appreciate it, Amanda. Thank you to all the members. Put up a members post here. I'm going to be real busy here coming up, but I'll have some cool stuff to share with everybody. I'm going to get kind of going in it before I really share too much, but exciting times. We'll have some stuff to share. All right. So now we kind of have this tuned up. So as so if I still want to go slower and cruise, I can bring back my power. That would be your manifold pressure. So I can bring back power even more if I want. But at props all the way back, you've almost never bring your props all the way back in cruise. But you can see we can get down to super efficiencies here. We're down to about 5 RPS. It's going to be a piece of cake to cool these engines. We are at, and that's not a slow speed. Again, people think that, you know, these GA twins are fast. You're doing like 150 knots at best, you know, and again, unless you're really, really going fast, it's better to, like, you'll save yourself, you might get there 20 minutes early, but burn another $50 of fuel. It's better to get there 20 minutes later, and save the $50 in fuel, because you don't want to pay the $50 in fuel. And so then you can also push your prop forward, and as we push the prop forward, it's going to decrease the blade pitch, which takes load off the engine and increase. So a system like this really helps to show what goes on with you know, the relationship between load and RPS. I got to change. Oh, I know what it is. So I talked about I had a problem with this. I got to fix. It's simple. It kept, you see how it kept going and kept going and kept going? That's because the seat never got switched off toggle. So these are toggles. And you go to pushes. That was part of the issue. Let's see. That is... let's catch up with chat. Hello, CG. Hello. If I missed anybody, sorry about that. I'm trying to... Again, I was talking about OBS is doing some weird shit where it's not showing me the integrated chat. So usually you have the integrated chat between this and Twitch. So this is a little bit smaller of a chat. CG has destroyed himself, it appears. Steam-powered, yeah. Good, cool steam-powered one would be neat. Yeah, the DO335 is a really cool plane, yeah. Appreciate it there, Amanda. Oh, I'll put you on the patrons, too. Yeah, unfortunately, my I gotta put a forward on the email for Patreon. The I don't get the you know, it should email me some of that stuff, but the problem is it's on my other email, and I need to set it up so it forwards it to my regular email so I actually see it. But appreciate that, Alistair. Let me catch up in chat here. Oh, you bought FS25. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I looked a little bit. People are kind of crying a little bit that there's bugs. So, you know, I generally don't, especially stuff when I do mods. I don't tend to get it day one. I'll tend to wait a little bit to let it kind of simmer down and figure out what's going on. You know, it's I like to do that for that. You know, people are pretty quick now with Farming Sim on getting everything kind of established quickly. You know, that all the mods converted over, so that's helpful. On vacation. Ooh, very nice. All right, let's see. So that's set. This was the issue here. Why it kept running was overrunning was because of the there were toggles, not pushes. So that's good. Let's save that. So that's tuned in now. Could probably actually go a hair lower on these. Let's go to 6s. So we'll go to -6. So that's how it's done in real life. They use centrifugal weights, and so the faster the engine spins, it forces the weights out, which opens a valve, which lets oil either in or out. And then as the engine slows down, the weights go in, and the valve will close and let oil out in and out of the hub. So it's hydraulically controlled in the planes. All right, good. So that's set up. Let's see what else we need here. I'm trying to figure a pallet for this. I definitely can't take my standard pallets. The other thing I see a lot of people have problems with is when they have problems taking off and they have to go to high speeds. One of the things is you notice the center of gravity should be right in front of your wheels. I've got it a little bit further forward than I normally would do so that you can put some cargo in here. It doesn't go aft too much. I'm trying to decide how I want to do this connection system. All right, let's go take a quick flight. Just go do a pattern. Go do a pattern really quickly. I don't have any brakes on here, but that's all right. We don't need them. Let's get rid of this pink bullshit in here too. Seeing some cool mods. You know, as normal, you know, I kind of my only real fear with mods is that it gets to the point where we're essentially like, you know, you can't get anything vanilla done. Or people don't make anything vanilla. So I think the challenges are going to be good, like, you know, having some no mod challenges, having, you know, mod challenges. That way, you know, it kind of keeps some continuity with some of that. But, you know, I'm kind of hoping it takes the direction that Flight Sim took, where the devs can kind of see what's a popular mod, and if a mod is really popular, they can put it in the base game. Like, for example, you know, like, you know, I know Alistair was talking about, I've been talking about where, like, having panels where you could essentially use a panel and make one side a throttle and the other side a throttle, so you could have, say, dual throttles in a 1x1 block instead of having one throttle in a 2x1 block. That would be really helpful. So, like, if somebody came out with something cool like that, you know, the devs saw that was popular, you know, they could put it in. Potentially. Do left traffic. So again, people think you like redline everything. You don't. You bring it back. You know, on like a small Cessna or something, the red line is lower than the real red line is. So they do kind of keep them full. But like larger aircraft, you don't keep it pinned. Like for example, in a jet. You don't take off with full thrust. You take off with takeoff thrust, which is already reduced. And then as soon as you get to a certain altitude, you tend to go to climb thrust, which is further reduced. And then you can either stay in climb thrust indefinitely or you go to cruise thrust. You know, so they're all reduced thrust settings. So, all right, so we're gonna put in some flap again, and we need trim. We need to counteract the lift with elevator trim. All right, and again, trim to where you'd be comfortable. You know, you trim constantly in real life. So I have some anti-flap built in there. There's a little bit of XML cover. I think there's XML is permissible, right, Alistair? I just got a cover piece there. I think I saw that it was permissible. Because I have my flaps, I have a lot of flap, and so I need to do some anti-flap to increase drag. So that's the problem with the game ones, is they don't have as much drag as they would in real life, so you kind of need that. So I can still control this pretty easily around 70 knots. The problem is being able to easily lift the nose. And so it makes the flare difficult. So around 75 knots will be the approach speed. That's probably actually quite a bit slower than the real approach speed. in the 337. I think it's probably maybe around 90 knots. I'd have to look. I'll see what approach speed is. But here you can see it's nice and controllable around 75 knots. I don't have the integrated rudder in to work on you know, kind of the, I hate to call it auto rudder, but it's essentially, it's proper coordination is what it is. Up, power. Yeah, so I got a little slow there. If you get slow, you start losing elevator effectiveness. So like at 60, I don't have enough airflow and speed for my elevator to be effective. So I do need to make my control on my throttle a little bit more granular. So I'll fix that here in a second. Just fix that real quick. Trying to get that tuned in. All right, here we go. Let's fix that. Let's go. So right here, this is too fast. I've got it at 0.05, so let's do 0.025 because I don't have a granular enough. I'm able to, like, you'll see this a lot when people make planes in game, is they make it so that they can they change their thrust too fast. And then you end up with a situation where, like, you can't keep your speed. Like, I should be able to keep my speed within a couple knots. And the problem was I would go from, like, 65 to 95. And so that was not helpful. Dump some flap in here and just go right in. It's going to be a shorter stream today. I've got to go somewhere at 1, so I'm also waiting for a package. Alright, so full flap again. You're going to need a bunch of trim. You're changing configuration. You're changing where the center of lift is of your aircraft. So you have to expect that as you change the center of lift of your aircraft, you need to change the configuration of the elevator. And so that's what trim is you're changing the angle of the elevator. I'll kind of go into that a little bit. It'll be kind of cool to show jack screw on a jet. So right around 75 knots, 80 knots. Again, like I said, the real one I think is probably about a 90 knot approach speed. A lot of light twins are around 90. I think the Seminole was 90. You know, you start getting into jets, you're talking 140 as VREF. So again, this is a bush plane, so one of them is speed slow. So like at 74, I've got real good control. So again, real low sensitivity. I can make, see how we're coming in perfectly on speed the whole way in. Now I'm bringing it back, touchdown beautifully. So again, like a lot of times you want lower sensitivity so you can get more precise, because the difference between 70 knots in this plane and 75 knots means that I can either get my nose to pitch up or I can't. So that's important. So that flies really well now, so little tiny tweak. You know, and you figure that controller came off of the Caribou, which had much bigger engines, so it would make sense that, you know, you need a little bit of variation on that. Let's see, what the hell am I doing here? Okay, good. That needs to change color right there. Okay. But that's coming along. Let's catch up on chat. Yeah, so I like the way this is flying now. I just need to add in the, I don't think I'm going to put a autopilot in this. I'm not going to have the space, really. Let's quickly do this. Blank. I need to put in auto rudder. So this is just to coordinate. In real life, you put your feet flat on the floor in a twin. I was flying with somebody last weekend in a sim. Flying with somebody last week in a sim, and their experience was all in light propeller airplanes. And so I was kind of showing them how, you know, in a jet, or even in a lot of twins, you put your feet flat on the floor because you don't have the torquing effects of the propeller. You don't have P factor, so you don't need rudder to compensate for those things. And so, for example, like when I fly a jet, as soon as I take off, I press the brakes on the rudder pedals to stop the mains from spinning, and then I put my feet flat on the floor because the yaw damper is going to take care of it, and because I have two engines, I just bank to turn. You don't use the rudder to turn. Like I was telling Alistair, he's flying the Caribou, and I was showing him, don't tag that rudder, you don't need it. So that would be in real life. So like when you lift that wing up, the higher wing is going to go faster than the lower wing. And because the higher wing goes faster than the lower wing, that's what is turning the plane. You're just coordinating with the rudder. Hello, Zizo. How are you? Good to see you. All right, let's see. Let's go. This is going to be the coordinator. So what we're going to do here is, this is a good thing I like to do. So come in, take a number in. This is going to be your roll. This is going to go out to the rudder. Shit. I don't want to do that. Let's see. Stand by. Need to add it on top of that. So hopefully this doesn't break something. Let's see. All right, that worked. All right, so let's go just build this real quick. I don't need the seat really. Yeah, I don't need to see. Let's go ahead and take number input yaw. I will need yaw in there. Okay. So we're going to take yaw and roll. And so what we're going to do here is grab a function block. We want, we'll do roll first and then yaw down here. And then we do the multiplier. Okay. So that will be good. And then we'll go to the rudder. All right, so what we're going to do is as we roll, shit, actually, I don't want it on the roll. Let's go, yeah, I don't want it on roll. I want it on, let's go, composite input, physics sensor, and then let's do this real quick. Update that. Let's save this. I don't have to do all this shit from scratch, so let's do that. Let's grab the Caribou. It's usually on my autopilots, so. AP should be a pretty big panel. I have no AP on this. I forgot about that. Let's see, where's that? Right here. Yaw bank system. That's beautiful. We can just take it. There we go. Look at that. Done. Time is it? Perfect. All right. I was hoping this package would get delivered before I have to leave the house. Okay. And the first thing to always do is get off of color swap. So one of the reasons why the 337 has kind of an interesting history. It was not all that successful, and one of the reasons is they made this so where the rear engine is very tight in the real plane, and so because it's very tight, it's hard to work on. You know, and again, these small twins are really not all that they're really not all that powerful. And so you have an airplane that's not that powerful that it ends up yeah, it has a lot more cost and complexity because like the overhaul on these engines can be like I don't know how much it is on this particular engine. Let's look. We'll do the research here. 337. Let's see. Overhaul. Let's see. It's $20,000 to $35,000 per engine, I would say. Yeah, so $20,000 to $30,000 per engine. So now double it when you have to do 2 engines. So that's why it's very expensive. So that's why a lot of the they switch over from a lot of small twins that used to be what people wanted, like especially they start getting to like rich ass people would want twins, and then they started going to singles like Cirrus because it's just too damn expensive to be running that. So anyway, this is the guts of this. So essentially you take the physics sensor, composite 16 is the X of the roll axis. That goes in here. It's negative X just because it's backwards times Y. Y is the yaw factor. So depending on the airplane, what you want to do is go out there and bank and see if it is staying coordinated and then change the yaw factor number. A tuner is just the keypad I can plug in to tune it. C combiner will take the yaw axis and then add the yaw back on so you can rudder through there. Pretty simple. Let's go check this out. So essentially what this is doing is adding the real physics of the high wing moving faster than the low wing. And then the original was a 2.2. Yaw damper. So essentially, with swept wings especially, you get into Dutch roll. So you'll get in a situation where you'll get oscillation, and the yaw damper is essentially, it's a PID that counteracts oscillation. So it's essentially doing what the gyro does in game. It's smoothing it out. So as you start to get a rudder oscillation, it will automatically dampen it. So that's why it's called a yaw damper, is it's dampening the oscillation. So now I should be able to roll and see where we start to turn. That's what would happen in real life. You'd be able to put your feet flat on the floor in a twin and be able to do this. Now, this one's an inline twin, and so it's still the same thing because you don't have the torque. So one reason you're doing some of the rudder is for torque. You don't have the torque. One propeller's moving one way, the other propeller's moving the other way. They cancel each other out. The other thing is P factor, so you get the slipstream off one propeller hitting the rudder. The rudders, we have twin boom, so you're not getting that, and also the other one is counteracting it going the other way, so you don't really get it. So 2.2 is actually pretty good here, so I should just be able to roll just like I would in real life in a twin, and we should be able to turn nicely. So it's probably a little bit too high. Let's go to 2. So see that ball, the coordinator? I want to try to get that in. Let's go 1.8. That's a little bit better there. Go 1.5. There we go. We got the ball coordinated now. Probably a little bit more than that. 1.65. There we go. Perfect. All right, so now we're coordinated. So as I increase the bank, that will increase the rudder. Again, the high wing is going to try to move faster than the low wing, and because the high wing's moving faster, it will turn the plane. That's how the plane actually turns. You don't kick the rudder. In game we don't have that actual aerodynamics going, physics going on that, so I have to put this system in just to kind of make it work like real. And that's the thing that, I get people asking, they want the game to be ultra realistic theoretically. The problem is, again, if you make the game ultra realistic, you have to live by the real rules of the world. When they make the game like this, yes, the physics is not perfect, but I can make a quick system like this to make it work perfectly for this vehicle. And then if I do a different vehicle, I'm not restricted by real life. I can have a cool fantasy vehicle like a airship. You know, not that an airship is fantasy, but in game, you know, you have to do some stuff. So that's the benefit of the game not being too realistic, is it allows you to kind of, you want to dial it in and make it super realistic and fly realistically, you can. And if you don't have to, you know, because again, you'd have to study for weeks to know how the wing of an airplane works just to build something in game. So some of the people who are really like asking for ultra realism, like you'd have to go get a degree in aviation to be able to understand how the wing works, to be able to build anything in stormworks, and you can imagine how many people that would alienate. So, you know, that's why some of the stuff is a little bit more simplified. You know, and with fins and everything else, we can easily go fix it. So, like, right now, my hands are off the controls. I'm not touching the keyboard. So you see how stable it is? You know, so everything's balanced. And you notice I'm keeping my speed within 1 knot. I'm going to do 1 tap down on speed because we're 1 knot fast. 1 tap up. 2 taps up. 3 taps. And you notice we can keep really nicely on speed. So I'm just gently tapping my speed back up. I don't want to get slow. Putting the nose down, I got to tap it down a little bit, but having that real good, you know, low sensitivity. And there we go. So really nice and flies well. But yeah, this is working really well. Excellent. Excellent. So that's a 1.65. All right, so we'll go in here. And we'll get rid of the tuner. We'll make this 1.65. That'll plug in there. And then the tuner we can get rid of just because I want to make this smaller. All right, there we go. Good. Let's catch up with some chat here. That's all right. It wasn't no problem there, Amanda. So the coordinator, again, is, you know, it's just simulating the real effects of the high wing going faster than the low wing. Yeah, so see if I can find something on yaw damper. And I'll find something on Dutch roll. Couple good Wikipedia articles here we'll look at. All right, so here's the yaw damper. So right here it talks about Dutch roll. So a yaw damper, sometimes referred to as a stability augmentation system, is a system used to reduce or damp the undesirable tendencies of aircraft to oscillate in a repetitive rolling and yawing motion, a phenomenon known as Dutch roll. A large number of modern aircraft, both jet-powered and propeller-driven, have been furnished with such systems. Use of yaw damper provides superior ride quality by automatically preventing uncomfortable yawing and rolling oscillations and reduced pilot workload. On some aircraft, it is mandatory. For example, most commercial jets, it's required to not only have a yaw damper, but you have to put it on. The yaw damper we had on the Embraer 145, we would put it on after takeoff. On the CRJ 900, you put it on before you take off, before you even taxi out. So some can run on the ground, some are not supposed to. Yep, several airliners were deemed unsafe to fly with a yaw damper. So again, you must have it. So that's what will happen. You'll get Dutch roll, especially with a swept wing. And so you can see the yaw damper will automatically, it's essentially like a PID system, so it automatically, as the plane's going left, it will automatically move the rudder to cancel it out. So you can see this tail wagging, that's the problem with it. So that's what a yaw damper does. Let's see if I can bring up a CRJ9 panel. Yeah, let's see. Try to find where the yaw damper is in pictures here. I'll just type in yaw damper. Show me. Yeah, so like it's down there. I'm trying to see if there's a reasonable picture I can find it. Yeah, so like right here is that stab trim, that stabilizer trim, there's a mock trim, and then here's your yaw damper right there. So you have two yaw dampers, and they're both run. So system 1 and system 2, and that will automatically cancel out the oscillations. All right, let's get some chat here. Yes, that was a pretty butter landing. Yeah, that's why changing that little bit of a little bit of sensitivity on the so I halved the sensitivity of my throttle. That's where a lot of people, like when I've run the challenges and people have this airplane that you tap the throttle once and oh my god, you go from like 60 knots to 120 knots, and then you tap it one down, you go from 120 knots to 60 knots. That's really not the desired behavior you want. You want to be able to control your speed within 1 or 2 knots. And if you can do that, like I've already tested this airplane out, 75 knots makes a beautiful landing. I have enough controllability, I have enough airflow over my elevators that I can pitch my aircraft effectively. And so when you come in, let me see if we can get a quick pick going here. Let's see. I know my package is going to be gone for the 1 hour I'll be out of the house. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's say that's your runway, right? And your airplane's coming in here. All right, and so you're going to come in, and you're going to come in on a certain glide path, often 3 degrees. That's 45 degrees, but right, 3 degrees, something like that. All right, so now if you came down and you banged at 3 degrees, you're gonna break all your landing gear off. So what you do at the last second here is you had it where I wanted it. At the last second, you're going to then flare. That's going to be picking your nose up. So you come down at about 3 degrees, and then you start to reduce it like this for a nice touchdown. So that's your flare. And so if you don't have enough airflow over the elevators in game or in real life, you're not going to be able to flare. So if you get too slow, you can do this in slow flight where you get slow, you can pull the control column all the way back and the plane will not pick the nose up. You will still go down. And so you need to increase your speed to be able to have that effectiveness of your elevators to then be able to pick the nose up to flare and not slam in. Yeah, like Rasmus talking about ultra realism not being fun. Yeah, exactly. Like Rasmus is talking from like a software developer's perspective. Is if you had things ultra realistic, it just like you would lose a lot of fun about it. It's imagine if everybody had to build a perfect wing. Like the amount of detail I put into my planes is because it's what I like to do. But like I spend most of my time, especially on my planes, of making sure they fly correctly how they would in real life. And so imagine if you had to do that 100%. Everybody would have to learn how to make a plane fly realistically. You would lose a lot of the cool stuff people could be able to do. And so I think it would ruin a lot. And, so some of the people asking for that, I don't think they necessarily know what they're asking for because it would, shit, I can't do that there. Yeah. I gotta do something with these doors. I don't like what that is. So people asking for like ultra realism with the game, I think sometimes don't really, again, know what they're asking for because it would be, you already see it where the point where people are like, oh, I have to vent tanks. It's supposed to be a game, not a job, or something like that. It's like, put that times 100 when now everything you do has to be really, really technical. It would alienate a lot of people. So the devs, smartly have to make things approachable. Trying to see where I want to put that. This is a pain in the ass. This is not colorable on both sides. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a a block across like that. I don't like that. Let's go like this, and then let's go. Yeah, I wish we could color the base here. I have another issue with where I'm coloring this, so I gotta see. Yeah, so just a lot of people would not like, it would not be fun for a lot of stuff. Like, already, you talk about like how much detail it takes to build a proper truck that, doesn't spin the tires, has the correct speeds. And now imagine you had to do that or else it's just not going to work. And that's, it would alienate a lot of people, because they just, either A, don't want to put in that amount of, time, or B, they just don't have the knowledge to do it, and they really like couldn't care less about getting that knowledge to do it, So it's kind of, it's not the best idea to make the game too unapproachable. The devs have to consider making the game approachable. I think they've done a reasonable job. Let's do a first aid kit here. So I do need, it is a requirement of the challenge to have some equipment here. Not a huge fan of that, but I got to cover this somehow. You know what? Screw it. I don't want to do that. It's going to be too much. Okay. It's the one thing that's bugging me is this one piece of coloring there that's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. Can't really screw it too much. Yeah, it's like let's save this real quick. I gotta go soon, so we'll just save this up, and then I'll talk a little bit about like let's see, talk some wing physics. Because like you would really, there's so much wing physics people don't like think about that you would have to know in order to build something really simple in games. So like here's a NASA site. So again, basics of a wing. When you have a curved surface, the air over it, by definition, it has to cover the same amount of distance in the same amount of time, or you'll create a vacuum. So this parcel of air here, because it's going more distance, right? This here, from here all the way to here, is longer than this straight section. It has to, by definition, go faster because the two pieces of air, when they split, this one splits from this one, they have to meet back here at the same time. And so that creates a low pressure. This creates a high pressure lift. All right. And so lift, drag, gravity is a lot of basics and shit. That's just control surfaces. Kind of ugly pictures in some of these. Yeah, that's like shit site. Two images here. So like there's a bunch of things with wing design people that have to understand. I'm trying to find like different NACA. It's like different wing designs. You'd have to worry about stall, angle of attack, stuff like that. Like I'll show you something with my build here in a second of like one of the things I do. Like you have here's flaps. So like, you have your flaps are essentially sucked in. This gives you your best efficiency for climb, cruise, and descent. So these flaps slide backwards, which makes the wing longer, which makes the wing bigger. So a bigger wing will, it has more surface area, it has more lift. So when you're cruising, you want the smallest wing possible because that has less drag, means you go faster and you burn less fuel. When you're coming into land or for takeoff, this is takeoff or the initial climb segment, which could be as little as now 400 feet. You don't want to put flaps up before 400 feet in a jet. So you'd have this out for that. So you have a little bit more lift. You have a little bit more lift in your wing. These are slats. Slats, the air comes under the slat, and it makes sure you have air on top of the wing that's connected. And then you have a little bit of flap. All that's doing is making the wing longer, and that is giving you more surface area, more lift. When you're coming into land, these are called Fowler flaps, and so these flaps go both backwards. They also have gaps in them, and so the air can go over in between the flaps to make sure the air doesn't separate and doesn't stall. So you can have a very high angle of attack on these, and it keeps from the flap itself stalling because the air keeps connected. And so the wing is, in this case, longer, which gives you more lift, but also you're increasing camber. Camber is the arc of the wing. So you notice if you drew a line from here, and it would be a big arc all the way here, the more arced your wing is, the fatter your wing is, the more lift. So when you're coming in a jet to land, you want a nice thin, small wing for cruise, and you want a big, fat, curved wing for landing. But the problem is, if you tried cruising with this wing, you'd be burning a shitload of fuel and going slow. Like when I'm coming into land and I have flaps 45, I need a lot of power just to maintain, say, 140 something knots. When I'm cruising, I can be going 320 knots at pretty much the same power setting. You know, there's other things involved too, but part of that is getting all this drag gone. So you see not a lot of drag. And then once you touch down, this is what spoilers do. So spoilers come up, and they you see how it changes the lift. It dumps lift. They're lift dumping devices is what they're referred to. But like you'd have to know all this stuff to build the most simple airplane in stormworks. You can imagine like you know nothing about wing design, and you have to come in and be an expert just to be able to do anything in game. How off-putting that would be to a new player. So like here's a slat. You see the airflow goes under the slat, keeps it attached. Again, same type of effect with these Fowler flaps. The air goes over them, stays connected. High angle of attack. By increasing the angle of attack, you increase lift. That's one of the things with a jet, especially coming into land, is the nose seems like it's high. It has a high angle of attack. Let's see. Let's see if I can find. So here's a bunch of wing designs. They usually come in with NACA numbers. It's a NASA number for the shape of the wing. So like this wing right here is very thin. Be a great wing for cruise. This wing is fat. That's going to be a great wing for, say, you find a Zenith. So Zenith makes this kit plane that is it's very good for slow flight. It's not very fast when it gets up in the air, but it's very good for slow flight. And if you look at the wing, it's got this big fat-ass wing on it. And so a fat wing gives you a lot of lift, but it gives you a lot of drag too. So it's got, like, look how fat this wing is. So it's designed to be really good for taking off at slow speeds and landing at slow speeds. And so it's got that fat wing, but which is not good for going high speeds. So like this is a good high-speed wing like Concorde. This is a good fat wing for, say, a C-130. This here is a symmetrical wing, so the only way you get lift out of this, because the air moves at the same rate above and below as you change the angle of attack. This one's a super fat wing. That's like a short field Zenith or something like that. And this is camber, the bend of the wing, the angle of the wing. So I think even Zenith, you can kind of see. I don't have too much camber. Let's see if I can find a high camber wing. Try to see if there's actual high camber. Like, see, that's like ridiculous camber on the wing. Flaps down, as you can see, that's why flaps bend, is to give you camber. There's like showing a big cambered wing. So like you'd have to know all this stuff just to build the most simple planes. And so that's why like too much realism it kills, you know, a lot of approachability, and it also makes it so you can't do some cool out of the box thinking, like making cool spacecraft and craft that can turn on a dime. And you know, you'd have to do all the work I do on my planes just to be able to make something fly. And so for a lot of people that just wouldn't be fun. But cool stuff there. It's just interesting stuff. All right, let's wrap up here. I got to get moving on my appointment. Let's see. Catch up with chat. Yeah, but definitely, like, you know, too much realism is going to be, you know, you have to do huge amounts of programming. Like I have limited interest in learning a lot of Lua, and so like you have to make that more complicated and everything else too. Yeah, that 7.6 is gonna be a lot of work. Yeah, I would like some more realistic systems in the not Stormworks 2. Like, you know, it's again, you still see people making this mistake thinking it's calling it Stormworks 2. Like, they're saying very specifically it's not for a reason. For example, like Alistair says, he'd like more complex systems. So say that not Stormworks 2. Let's again, this is just not even a guess. This is me using an example. But let's say not Stormworks 2 is an incredibly detailed ship simulator. That's it. No airplanes, no ground vehicles, none. It's an incredibly detailed ship simulator. And hopefully it will take, you know, let's say that's what it is going to be, and it's going to take care of some of the people who want their sinking ship survival and all this bullshit. And so when you bang into something, it puts an actual hole in the hull. Buoyancy is 1-to-1 with real life. It has perfect buoyancy and, you know, everything else like that. Yes, it would be great that you can build this ship that's perfect with buoyancy, and you can go and you can, drive the ship around. The problem becomes you lose innovation. So now that the ship it's realistically heavy, it's realistically buoyant, well, now you can't do anything unrealistic. So see, part of the problem with some of the people in Stormworks who, like, they say they want this realism is, oh, I want realistic buoyancy, I want realistic drag, I want realistic X, Y, and Z. Let's say it's all to do with ships. These are also some of the same people who want to go 80 knots in an oil tanker, right? There's a reason why an oil tanker doesn't go 80 knots, because it's got this real bulbous hull that is designed to hold enormous quantities of oil and go slow speeds. That's what the hull is designed to do. And the buoyancy is not going to be enough to overcome, or let's put it this way, the way that the oil tanker sits is it's low in water and it pushes through the water. It doesn't come up on top of it on plane like a speedboat. So the problem becomes then you're going to have some of the same people who say, I want a realistic buoyancy, I want realistic drag, but guess what realistic buoyancy and drag does? It makes it so you can't go 80 knots. So you're stuck at 10 knots. So some of those same people who think they want those realisms now run into the situation where they have their oil tanker, it's going 10 knots, and they say, oh my God, it takes forever to get anywhere. It takes a realistic time. You wanted realism, you said, right? So that's part of the problem. So I think it's actually better having a less realistic system where, hey, yeah, buoyancy is less, drag is less, but you can use a bunch of fins and you get your oil tanker up on plane, and you can have unrealistically strong engines that burn an unrealistically low amount of fuel, and you can make this oil tanker that looks like an oil tanker that goes 80 knots if you want. You know, you have all the tools in game. So that's kind of where I think some of those people, you know, have contradictory mindsets, I think. Yeah, Zenith is pretty neat, yeah. That's not really true there, Zizo. This plane takes off around 80 knots, 90 knots, which is realistic. It depends on how you build it. Like, here's the Cap Air jet. Cap Air jet takes off over 100 knots. And the whole thing is you can build it in game. So right here, these are all small fins under here. See all these small fins? I have 1, 2, 3, 4 times 12, 24 fins on each side. The flaps go down, the fins go up. This gives you realistic performance. Again, I was saying how the flaps give you a lot of lift, but they do not give you a lot of drag. These go opposite to these flaps, and that gives you a lot of drag and a lot of lift. And so what you'll find is this plane here takes off at like 100-something knots like it would in real life. And this plane takes off at around 80 knots. And then my ultralights are here. The best one is the Antonov 2. My Antonov 2, I can take this off at like 30 knots. And it's because of the way that, you know, it's been built. So, you know, you can build them the way you want to build them. But, all right, guys, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, make sure you like the video. If you're new and you enjoyed it, consider subscribing, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.